Welcome back. All right, so we have wrote a simple program, very simple, just hello world, and we have learned about 3 different types of errors that can occur within your Java programs, which are syntax errors, runtime errors, and logic errors. Now let's get a little more complex and write another simple program. And this one is going to be us solving the discriminant. And when we're doing this, what we're going to learn is, one, how to do certain math functions within Java, but then we're also going to learn about methods. But let's first start simple. So we're going to make a new package, and this is part 3 of our series. So I'm going to write part 3. And now in part 3, we are going to make a new Java class, and we are going to call it discriminant. Discriminant. For those of you who are not familiar, the discriminant is part of the quadratic formula, which is the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared divided by 2ac. B squared, wow. For those of you who are not familiar with what a discriminant is part of our quadratic formula. It's the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and it's all divided by 2 times a. The discriminant is what's underneath the square root. This is just a really simple program that gets to show some of the math functions that exist in Java, okay? So even if you don't know what a discriminant is, don't worry about it. We're just doing a math problem. So it's created our class discriminant in the package com.chaotictojam part 3, and we need to create the entry point to our program, or the main function. Okay, so public static void main string args. Here you are. We have our entry point. It's valid, no issues with our code that we learned about last time. The first step that we're going to learn within Java is how to read in information from the command line or the terminal or console. So we want to read in a user's input. So what we use is something called a scanner. So this is called scanner, which is part of the Java util package. So if you typed in scanner in IntelliJ, it's going to suggest this Java util. Or if you were doing something like Eclipse, maybe you would type scanner and then there would be a suggestion to include the Java util package. In our case, and see, he's doing it as well. He's saying he can't resolve it, import the class, and then it imports in. So this is importing in a specific class that's part of the Java util packages. This is all these programs that are available part of Java's JDK, okay? So scanner is one of these utility functions that we can use to read in information from the terminal. So we're going to call this scanner input, and we're going to declare a new scanner object. So scanner input is a variable name, and then we're saying we need a new scanner, and we need to say where it's coming in from. Right now, we are working with the terminal, and the terminal has a system.in, and we've already been using system.out. Out was writing out, in is reading in, right? See where we're coming from? So system.in. There are other inputs that you can do for a scanner, like a file. We're starting simple, right? Keep that in mind. This is all about being simple. So now we have created a scanner that can read in user input. And now we need to set values. So I'm going to leave a little comment right here. The discriminant, sometimes I have to spell it out a few times, is b squared minus 4ac. So what we need to do is we need to get the variable a, the variable b, and the variable c from a user. So let's prompt a user to input in a number, okay? So system.out, because we're going to be writing out. So do you understand this pattern here? Is that you read in, you write out. Same with like if you read a book, you're getting knowledge, so you're reading it into your brain. When you write a book, you're sharing knowledge, so you're writing it out on a piece of paper. So that's a similar way that you can think of with the system.in and system.out. So we're going to do system.out.print. We're going to print a string that says enter a number for a. Okay? And now what's going to happen is we need to read in a. These are going to be doubles. So double a equals input dot next, and we're going to read in the next. There's a bunch of suggestions here. We want to read in the next double. So when a user types something in, when it's running this code, when a user, it will say, here, actually we'll run it. So we right click and we run. And it builds. And here's our terminal. It says enter a number for a. And it's waiting for us to do something. So if I type in 2, now the program is done because the next line's a comment and then we finish the method and it terminates. But it read in 2. Okay, so we're going to do this exact same code for B and C. So the nice thing I like to do is just copy this. We're going to copy this. I'm going to paste it and I'm going to say enter a number for B. Look, it's already puts a red squiggly down here because we've already defined the variable A, and that makes sense. We want B. And now we want also for C. So now we are reading in A, B, and C. And now what we want to do is compute the discriminant. And then we're going to write out that answer to the users. So we need to find a way to solve the discriminant. So for right now, we're going to do this all inside the main function. And then we'll split it out to a method. So we're going to make something called double. And then we'll say this is discriminant, which equals B times B, because we got B squared, so B times B minus 4 times A times C. This does our math, so we're saying B times B minus 4 times A times C. And then we need to display what the discriminant is to the user. So we're going to write out again. So that's system.out.print. And then we write the string, of course, my bad there. The discriminant is little colon space. Now, I want to put the answer for the discriminant on the exact same line of this code. So I can concatenate. And with strings, you can just add together them. So we can say plus discriminant. And this will give us the answer for our discriminant. The last thing is that we have an input here that has been created. This is something that opens up an entire resource. So out of good programming practices, when you make something like a scanner, you always close it once you're done. So we say input dot close, and this closes a stream for reading it. Right now, just keep it as good practice. In the future, we'll go more into about like try with resources where these things will automatically close for you. But remember, again, starting simple, the whole entire goal. So if we run this code, so I'm going to right click, run. We're going to get 3 prompts for different numbers. So let's say for A is going to equal 2. And then I'm going to have B equal 4 and C equal 1. And so the discriminant is 8. And let's just check that. So B is 4 times 4, which is 16, minus 4 times 2, which is 8, times 1, which is still 8. So 16 minus 8 is 8. So we are correct. All right, so now we have written a simple program that is reading in user input from the terminal and calculating a discriminant. So let's use this information, the stuff that we're gathering in, to now write a method. So this was our main method. This is one method. Let's write a function that's outside of this main method. So let's make a new method. Public static, and this is going to return a double because we're writing a method to calculate our discriminant. We're going to make this calculation here a method. So public static double, because this returns a double, and we're going to call this calculate discriminant. And what do we need to calculate a discriminant? We need A, B, and C. Those are parameters. So we have a parameter that's double A, another parameter that's double B, and then our third one, which is double C. These are all our inputs for our method. Now I put our little bracket here. So we have declared our block. And just because of, just for syntax here, I made a little mistake, and this is important for you guys to see. For programming standards, this should be a lowercase c. Now again, it's going to be different depending on companies that you work at and what people like. This is more of a Java standard that people do with the lowercase c. I see in C# people make it an uppercase. It's all really more towards what your company or what your personal preferences are. So don't get too attached to complete and total syntaxes. I've worked at a lot of different places and I've seen a lot of different styles. So if you can see right here, I got a little red squiggly that says I'm missing a return statement because I'm saying I'm returning a double, but I don't return anything. If you look here, there's no statements. So how does a double get back to it? Well, this thing called return. Okay? Right now I'm going to write return 0. So now we return 0. Now there is no issues other than the fact that this doesn't calculate the discriminant. So we need to calculate the discriminant. Thankfully here, we've already written our code. We have b squared minus 4ac. So you could take this code right here and copy it. Actually, let's copy this entire line. So double discriminant equals b squared minus 4ac, and we return discriminant. This can become one return statement. We don't need to declare the variable discriminant and then return a variable discriminant. You can copy this section right here and then return b squared minus 4ac. Just like that. And we delete the statement. This is just letting us know that there's multiple occurrences of the same code. So why do we use methods? This is more about code reusability. Maybe we would have a loop or something that's going to be going through, and we'll go more into loops in another part of this series. Or we're going to have multiple inputs that aren't a loop, and then we would have to keep calling the exact same line of code again, again, and again. And code reusability is very important. So now you create this method so that in Java you can reuse this code and it can be called from anywhere. So our last step is to make this double discriminant call calculate discriminant instead of its own little block of code, right? Calculate discriminant. So we're going to call calculate discriminant here instead of b squared minus 4ac. So I'm going to comment this out, and we're going to say double discriminant equals, and then I already copied calculate discriminant, but you can also just type it out and you'll see that it starts getting suggested to you, calculate discriminant. And then we need to pass A, B, and C. So right now it's saying that this can't be applied because we need all these parameters and we don't have any of them being passed. Well, here they are, right? So we pass A, and then B, and C. If you noticed, A, B, and C were grayed out before I typed them here. Let me delete this again so you can see. They're all grayed out because they're never being used. Once we start passing them, they are detected as being used. They're being used right here. Okay? So if we run this again, we'll do the exact same scenario as before. It should output 8.0 again. So for A, it was 2, for B it was 4, and for C it was 1. So discriminant is 8. When you make changes to your code, always retest. So yes, it might be, well, I know I made a method and I copied the exact same line of code, so it's going to work fine. Don't do that. Test your code. Always test your code. Don't assume that just one little line change, everything's fine. Things break. These are simple programs, so it seems tedious, but if you get in this habit now, you will be a far better developer in the future. Another thing that I want to show you is that there's another way to calculate b squared, or basically to do exponentials higher than just b squared. B squared's pretty easy to type out, b times b. But what if it was like b to the 5? Well, there's this math feature within Java. So right here, if you wanted to say, we'll call this double, and we'll call it b squared. Why not? This will be equal math dot pow, which is the power, and you pass the value that you're going to use. So in this case, it's b by the exponent, which would be 2. So this is b squared. So this is another way to do b times b is just b squared. So there you go. I'm going to delete this line, but you have now created a simple program and you have made another method that is being called to now use code reusability, which is the next step into your Java process. In the next few lessons, we're going to learn about loops and booleans, okay?